Welcome to Thursday Walk with Me, especially to our partners. We've got GMS, Mitsubishi, Oz Equipment, and National Make Good Solutions. We've got a couple of special guests today, very close and long-term dear friends of mine, in Andrew McManus, who's been good enough to join us, and
a pleasure.
Also Russell Brown, who I've known for a very long time. He's a very passionate Sydney Swans supporter. I did break his heart in 1996, so sorry, Russ. No, I'm not. I'm actually not sorry about that. But look, what we'll do first is I just thought that we'd speak to Andrew McManus first, who I'll sort of dive into a little bit about, ask him a few questions about his history in music. And Macca, where did you get your original start into music? I know that we're going to eventually get into what you're doing now and some of the challenges that you've had, but how did you first say, right, I'm getting into this big beast called the music industry?
Well, basically, from with the Reader's Digest version was that I left school here. I was going to play rugby. That was my main claim to fame. And in those days, it was an amateur sport. So I got a job with President Hotels in Queensland, who I started as a trainee manager. Subsequently, ended up getting a start with Warringah down in Sydney. And so I changed employers, which was Resch's Hotel, or Tooth's Hotels, Resch's Brewery. Yep. Anyway, after about a year and playing with Warringah and managing or assistant managing the Mona Vale, the Hotel Rose Bay came up. And I sort of working out I was a better hotelier than I was a footballer. And then we built that up after about 12 months. And after the 12-month period, we doubled its take and Tooth sold it. So all of a sudden I was without a hotel, and I was, still under employment, but, there was only, I think they had 12 managers and 11 hotels. So anyway, then I got a phone call because one of the sneaky things we did at the Rose Bay was we ran the SP booking. And we had, anything you could make a quid. We were doing it to double the crowds. And I was laying off through this guy called Terry Page. Anyway, he rang me up and he said, "Do you know anything about music?" And he had this huge venue at Coogee Bay called Selena's. And I said, "No, nothing at all." He said, "Well, neither's the bloke that books the place. When do you want to start?" I said, "I'll start Monday." And that's how it all started. And after about 5 years of booking that venue, I met the Divinals. They had a similar story. They were getting, they were getting touched a bit by their managers. And so I said to them, "Look, give me a few shows and I'll show you how to make money." So after about 2 or 3 months went by, and I booked Jindabyne, the Old Lion and the Palace in Melbourne. And after the 3 shows, we sat down and I said to Mark and Chrissy, "I'll guarantee you 20 grand each as a it's impossible." So anyway, the funny part about it was Roger Mason, who was then in the models and is still doing a lot of work, writing movies and what have you. He and I were in the kitchen cooking breakfast. And Chrissy come down and, and all her guns blazing, "Where's my money?" I said, "Well, hang on, I'll just finish." So I went upstairs, did the accounts pretty quickly. And I said, "Well, Chrissy, there's your 20. Mark, there's your 20. This 47,000 is mine." From that day onwards, they said, "You managers." And I did for 11 years. And after that, and in the period of like 1990, when we had the big hit, I Touched Myself, we ended up doing a co-management deal with Freddie DeMann, who managed the Madonna and Lionel Richie and Smithereens. So I basically went over there and followed him around and basically built up my little black book. And then subsequently, 4 or 5 years later, when my tenure with the band had sort of come to an end, and it was just becoming too emotionally and physically impossible, because Mark was going out with another girl and Chrissy had fallen in love with Charlie, the drummer, and it was just a nightmare. Anyway, so I went into promoting, and that's sort of been what I've been doing ever since.
And what would you find is the biggest misconception about your job? Or I think there's 2 parts to the question: the biggest misconception, and what are the intangibles it takes? Because there'd be certain times that I'd imagine you're flying by the seat of your pants and you've got to be pretty resourceful.
Oh, very much so. And it's a constant, moving feast. Even pre-COVID, there was always, certain difficulties, and and you're managing human beings, you're managing egos, you're managing structures where you've got an agent, you've got a manager, and then you've got the band. And 9 times out of 10, the attitude of the manager and the agent is not really represented. And I'm sure Rusty will agree that sometimes the band's actual attitude. But however, they force feed you, all these type of things, and you have to jump over hoops. And subsequently, sometimes the job is more difficult than what it needs to be within, those, third party involvements. But then you just get used to it. And like, even I was driving along today and, having a conversation with one of the agents from one of the acts that we're putting on, a big tour we're coming up. And he's just recognised as one of the most difficult agents, in Australia. And you just got to handle him with kid gloves, because you get angry or you get, emotionally involved with some of the things that he, the tangibles he throws up. You never get the act. But subsequently, I've been dealing with him for quite a few years. I sort of know how to handle him, and I'll get the act that I want at the price I want to pay. But in reference to where we are sort of today, it's just it's a minefield now. Every day, and you just don't know. Mel and I are very happy today because not only did we get the Commissioner of Border Control approval for our acts to come in front of the Southern Stars, but then in January, the Prime Minister decided to put a cap on anyone entering the country. So then we had to go and reapply to be over the cap, because the cap, you can't attack, the Australians entering back into the country, which is fair enough. So we then have to get health and police approval or support to then be over that cap. And thankfully today we got that. So it's a good day.
I suppose it's just that constantly ever evolving part of your job. Like, who would have thought that you'd ever be dealing with the health department?
Corey, about 4 weeks ago, about 6 weeks, I wrote our very own private quarantine document.
Yep.
Ended up taking me weeks and weeks to write, 86 pages. And it was to basically put our artists into a private quarantine, not into the hotel system. And, and it was quite soul destroying, because it got knocked back. And it got knocked back because it wasn't in Sydney and it was in the Hunter Valley. And the reasons that they gave was more so, because there's no COVID-safe hospital recognised in Newcastle. So we just got kicked to the curb. And that was like, hours and hours and hours and hours of my life, 86 pages documented. I was up to version 16. And then for it to be knocked on the head was like, well, dust yourself off, get back up, talk to the bands, tell them they have to hotel quarantine, and away we go. And that actually, and they were surprisingly quite, open to the idea. But then we had to find another route, working with Screen Australia, to get them into the better hotels, not, the sort of the Australian Open style. So, mate, you're right. There's no way in the world I would have thought we'd be dealing with border control, immigration at a different level, sorting through quarantine components and how we get them in and get them out. It's just a different world.
And then you had a massive year lined up. Like, you had basically the KISS final tour, and then obviously Under the Southern Stars, which we're going to talk about in a minute. Like, how frustrating was it from your point of view? You'd had a few previous years, but to know that you had these really big tours lined up, and then all of a sudden you're left with nothing.
Well, the KISS one was a real punch in the guts, because that was out of our control, and without going into the semantics of why, but they demanded that the tour was cancelled, not postponed, because they had an insurance policy that they could claim their costs on. If it was postponed, they couldn't have claimed. So we had to refund 87,000 tickets. Now, that is a big ouch, yeah. And then, at the moment, I can pleasurably say that we're working on with the band at the moment to hopefully, put together a plan for them to return, later on at the end of this year. But, it hasn't been easy.
And what's the biggest lesson? We're really big on the walks about how we can learn from other people, and I suppose through adversity, What's the biggest lesson that you probably took out of COVID yourself? Like that you either learnt something about yourself, or what did it also reinforce for you?
Well, from our point of view, it was just a continuance of being resilient, and in the old terms of Winston Churchill, just don't give up.
Yeah.
And from the point of view where we sat, there's been days there where, we've been knocked to the ground, but it's like, well, it's no fun down here. Let's get back up. And that's what we just have to continually reinvent ourselves or come up with solutions. And that's probably, thinking on the run. And I'm so lucky I got, great right-hand lady, Mel. And between the two of us, we've been together like many, many years. And we sort of, got each other's backs, and we sort of know what's going on. We can be a step ahead sometimes, which is with, for what the two of us do, it'd be normally take a team of 5. But that comes with experience, and that comes with a bond, which we've been lucky to have, where a lot of people don't have. But I suppose the biggest learning thing was that also how to survive, and we went into some other, without going into what they are, but little businesses that have made decent money, and that's kept us going.
Yeah. Now, you've been pretty fortunate. Now, I know you've got the photo of Stevie Nicks in the background. You've also, I suppose, dealt with Kiss and all these big bands. What's one of the things that you've learnt from them up close? Now, I know that there's the other side of the lifestyle that's, the rock and roll lifestyle, but what about the high performance aspect of these guys? Like, what are the things that you've noticed about them? Because you've got to spend a lot of time with them. What are the things that you notice about them that just gives them that extra edge over everyone else?
Well, what I found, and I suppose, and as I've grown, because remember, I'm managing the Divinals, I was very close in insular inside a rock and roll band that was rock and roll to the nth degree. To then now into the 2000s, what I've noticed and continually noticed is health is such a bigger and more important aspect of the touring world. That's from everything from Steven Tyler to even Tommy Lee. He's now a teetotaler, and to guys that used to really burn the candle at both ends. They realise that live touring is their livelihood. There's very little monies to be made in records anymore. And your Spotify playlists, etc. The pennies that you get from that. So they've had to actually bunker down and go, this is a business. This ain't no longer a game. And it's very much so their livelihood. And like with Stevie Nicks, when she goes on the road, she not only has a voice, she has a voice and a meditation person that she takes with her, and they're part of her daily routine. And she's still at her age and every day does an hour of vocal training.
And how old is she?
I wouldn't like to say, but if anyone wants to Google it, they can find out. But that's not for me to give up a lady's age. No, wouldn't do that.
You're very, very wise, man. Yeah. Now, and just we mentioned as well. Now I know that we have got Russ on there, and we'll go to him in a sec. But I suppose Touchwood, once Under the Southern Stars does happen, will that be one of your best things that you've ever made happen, given what you've had to do?
Oh, look, no doubt, and the challenge has been put in front of us, and we've just continued. And again, as you're aware, big fella, we've had to push it back twice now. And both times it's been, well, the first time was, of course, with COVID, full stop. The second time was because Victoria was still in a slump, and there was no way we were going to get approvals to have a 15,000 capacity, event in Mornington, etc., in Yarrawongas and what have you. So we had to collectively move the whole thing back again to May. And look, we still today, there's challenges afoot with the way these guys drop. When I say these guys, premiers drop fences on borders, at the drop of a hat. I talked to guys in America. I was talking to them, one of the agents this morning from Bush, and also looks after Slash. And he's just gone, and I said to him, look, you're not going to believe it, Victoria, so South Australia's put a border up, controller up, border up again, because they had 2 cases in Holiday Inn. And he goes, what, 2,000? I go, no, 2. It's like, He goes, but wasn't there 20,000 people at the Australian Open? I go, yeah, but there's two buggers got a cold, and so the border's gone up and closed to get down again, and they can't get their head around it. You know, it's just this trigger happy, you know, and that's what people don't realize what they do to people's, you know, mental aspect and their jobs, and the runoff of that is astronomical in comparison to just shutting the border, and they shouldn't have the control to do it. There needs to be unilateral national, you know, system in, and they, you know, and it just, you know, living up here, and as you yourself are now, trying to get between Queensland and New South Wales for the last couple of months, it's been a joke, you know. And the harm it's done to the Gold Coast tourism and to, you know, other you know, into Queensland, it's going to take years to come back from, all over a knee-jerk reaction. So, you know, and as you know, and I'm not giving any political persuasion here, but I like what Berejiklian says. It's here. We got to work with it, not run from it or try to get around it. It's working with it now, and that's probably the smartest approach, I think. And if we could all take that approach, I think we'd all get through it a lot easier than what we are.
And one last one, Macca, like how much more conscious, I know you'd mentioned the likes of Stevie Nicks and how they look after themselves, and are you, and I sort of half know the answer to this question, by the way, that I'm asking, are you ever more conscious yourself about looking after yourself in terms of health and fitness and that side of things now compared to days gone by?
Absolutely. You know, when I moved to Byron, the second thing I bought was a bike, you know, a push bike, even though it's electric, it was still great. And zoomed around on that most of the time. And I still, you know, actively go to Gwingana 3 or 4 times a year, the health retreat. Because every time you get a bit burnt or you get a bit, excess partied or whatever, it's a great place to go and actually, you know, reconnect and get back in the game. So and then like again, and you get as you get older, you only just getting out of bed. Some days you go, oh, I'm hurting here or hurting there, and that's just from mowing the lawn from the day before. So got to keep fit.
Exactly. Now, what have we got? We've got about 10 minutes to go. I'm trying not to go too far over, though today's very easy for me to go over, so I'm sure everyone won't mind if I go a few minutes over. Very fortunate that a man that is one of the other reasons that I'm very excited about Under the Southern Stars, other than seeing Bush, and then now we get to see Cheap Trick, we get to see Stone Temple Pilots, is I get to see my old mate, Russell Brown. Now, Russ, where are you, brother?
I'm walking around Club Mandalay Golf Course.
I love the fact that I'm getting you to physically exercise, Russ. I never thought that I'd get to see the day that I would make you exercise. So I've actually had a double win today, other than having you on board to have a chat with Andrew. Now, how tough? I suppose Andrew spoke about it as well, but how tough has COVID even been from you, from a musician's point of view?
Oh, let me firstly say, after listening more to Andrew then, what a lot of people don't understand about music, and once you're inside it, it's heart and soul. You basically put your heart and your soul in your hand, you hold it out, and you ask people to like you. Now, not many people go around the world day to day asking other people to like you. If I wanted to work in a factory, I could not talk to a guy for 10 years. It doesn't matter. I'll still do my job. But when music is abound, it's heart and soul. And if you said to Andrew, I'll give you, well, this is what I think, I'll give you this much money to organise that, and he didn't know what he had to go through to do it, I reckon he'd say yes. But once he knew what he had to do to make Under the Southern Stars happen, it's because of his heart and his soul. He might make money in the end, but he wants it to happen because it's about the music. You know, I've just cancelled 21 shows in Europe, because that guy said, look, my English agent said, I don't think you can do it. And I said, I don't think we're allowed to do it anyway. And so he just put it back another year. And this is from 2020. This tour was meant to happen in 2020. Now 2021's gone. It's going to be 2022. So I reckon there's a bunch of people out there hanging for live music, and to have Cheap Trick, Stone Temple Pilots, Bush, Rose Tattoo, you've got Rose Tattoo, and Electric Mary. It covers a broad range of music. It's just not just rock, it's styles of rock music. And I reckon that's going to bring a lot of people to it. I don't know how many you can have, but it's going to bring a lot of people to it. I'm really looking forward to it. Going back to your question, sorry. What it did to me was I realized that maybe I was just going along to get along. So I started doing other things. You know, I turned right or left instead of going straight all the time. And I started a business mentoring bands who are in, some of them are in just in the same position as me. But it's about, you know, talking and maybe helping, this is a big word, but inspire them to keep moving, because as I said before, it's heart and soul, man. Whew, it's pretty hard to hold your heart out to someone every day and ask to be liked. But you keep doing it because that's what you do.
And is that one of the, I know you mentioned just then, Russ, but was that one of the positives of COVID, that you had to learn how to adapt and how to pivot yourself? And you mentioned the mentoring stuff and how rewarding that must be to actually help other people.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, you know, I get people coming to me in the same position as me. They can't get a gig. They can't work out how to get their music out on the platforms they need to be to, you know, be in the same game or same ballpark as whoever, you know, Deep Purple or the Eagles or whatever, you know. And the other thing I should have known anyway, but I quickly come to realise is we're 60 years down the track in rock and roll music from the Beatles. Let's just pretend the Beatles started it. So we've got to write songs, everybody, got to write songs that nobody's heard before and don't sound like somebody else. Now, I don't know how, it's not an easy task, but it's probably a DNA thing, and that's where the good bands are lucky enough to have 4 or 5 people that come with a DNA that match each other, and they just do it. Yeah, so I don't know if that answered the question, but it answered mine.
Now,
My huffing and puffing, I'm actually drinking. I'm faster than Carl Lewis, if anyone knows who he is.
Now, Megan, I know that we had a question that we did throw it out to the audience, and this was for the Andrew was very kind enough to offer up a double general admission pass to go and see Russ at under the Southern Stars and all the other aforementioned bands. Now, who had the question that we decided on?
The lucky winner is Julie Russell. Her question was, during COVID, did you notice your creativity go up or down? How did it affect your actual creativity?
By 1,000%. I've written, I didn't know English, but I've written over 150 bits. I haven't written 150 songs, but I've written over 150 bits, and I was just going every day. Look, I haven't written any for a few weeks, but when it first started, I was just banging them out. And we're going in the studio to record a new single for the Under the Southern Stars tour. In March, we'll go in March 1 and 2. And that was one of the songs that we'd written. We'd already started recording, and then COVID locked us down, so we were out. Yeah, I just kept going. It was so creative in every way, not just the music, in looking at my own health as well. I know you talked about it, but it's actually true. I don't know why this happened, but I have diabetes type 2, and a couple of months ago, it just kept popping up on Facebook every day, and I started reading in it. And I'm like, oh my God, I got to look after this stuff. I'm trying to shorten my life by, 10, 15 years. So here I am. So that's my creativity in my body. I'm trying to work that in. And musical, it's awesome. I've actually been in the studio that was meant to be in there today, but there's been a breakout in Sunbury, and that's where I was going to record. So I decided I would go, just to be cautious. I recorded on Monday night. I recorded yesterday. I've just really got back in the studio now, so just can't wait. Pete, our guitarist, is in Queensland at the moment, working with Russell Morris, so he'll be back mid-February, maybe late February, and away we'll go in the studio. Electric Mary, brand new tune for Under the Southern Stars.
Well, it's
now,
good. Very good news there, Dustin. Very good news.
Now, look,
Sorry, Corey, I was talking to Dax, the drummer of Cheap Trick, just a few days ago, and he's really looking forward to coming out here again. They love Australia, Cheap Trick, so really hope this, this is going to be a great thing. It'll probably be the best tour we've ever done, to be honest with you. We wouldn't have done a better one than that, not with that colour of bands. Very exciting. Noisy.
a little bit windy. Now, look, that's our half an hour, but look, like I said, we could probably end up talking for another half an hour. I know I'm very conscious of everyone's time at a lunchtime, but look, I'm certainly pumped. Maybe, look, I've known Andrew for a hell of a long time. I've known Russ for probably even longer. To be able to see two of my great mates put on such an awesome event and have the resilience and the hard work that they put into this, I am definitely looking forward to being stage side, seeing Russ belt out Electric Mary in a big way. I'll be really bloody excited, and bloody excited for Andrew as well. I know the pivots and the turns and the hard work that you've got to go through, brother. And look, on behalf of everyone with Walk With Me, a big thank you for taking the time out. And I know everyone will be very excited about what's going to happen for Under the Southern Stars.
Well, appreciate the time, and look forward to catching up with you for a cold one, big fella.